Okay, so the next worksheet is going to be the factoring quadratics that are already grouped. So I already did the nitty-gritty work for you and found the two factors that multiplied to the top of the x but added to the bottom of the x. So now this is for you to practice your skills on grouping. So the first thing that you want to do is you want to group the first and second term together. So in this case, the first term is 3x squared. The second term is 3x. So when I group them together, I'm just going to put parentheses around them. Then you're going to group the third and the fourth term together. So in this case, the third term is 4x. The fourth term is 4. So we're going to group those together with parentheses. Notice that you include the sign that's in front of this third term. So in this case, it's a positive. So now we want to do what's called factoring out the greatest common factor. So looking at this first grouping, we have 3x squared and we have 3x. So we need to know what the greatest common factor of this is. So the greatest common factor of 3 and 3 is obviously 3. So I'm going to put this here. Now we have x squared and we have x. So they obviously all have the same variable, which is x. You've just got to figure out what exponent it is. So you always go by the smallest exponent. So this is an exponent of 2. This one has an exponent of an imaginary 1. So then that means this is going to be a x to the first power because you go by the smallest exponent. Now you're going to divide each one of these terms by your greatest common factor. So 3 divided by 3 is obviously 1. I'm not going to put it here. You can if you want, but I'm not going to. X squared divided by x. So the easiest way to do this, x squared, if you would write it out, x squared is just x times x divided by x. One set of x is going to cancel out. You're going to be left with just an x. So that's going to go right here. Now do the same thing with this term. 3 divided by 3 is, again, 1. X divided by x, they're going to cancel each other out, so we're just left with a 1. So 4x and 4, what do they have in common? They have a 4 in common. So now since this is a positive, this greatest common factor is also going to be a positive. Now, divide, because they obviously don't have a variable in common. This one has an x, that one doesn't. So 4x divided by 4 is just going to be x. 4 divided by 4 is 1. Now, before you go any further, check to make sure what you have in parentheses match. If they do not match, you did something incorrect. So now we're going to put our greatest common factors together in one set of parentheses. So our greatest common factors were 3x and 4. So we're going to have 3x plus 4. And then what we had left over was x plus 1. So this is going to be our answer. All right, which one do I want to do next? Let's jump over to number 5. Okay, same thing. You're going to group the first two and together. Then you're going to group the second two together. Remember, the sign always still stays with the third term. So 2x squared and 8x squared. So figure out what those numbers have in common, 2 and 8. If you cannot remember what 2 and 8 have in common, you can always go to Desmos, type in GCF parentheses, and then type your numbers 2, 8. And Desmos will tell you that the greatest common factor of 2 and 8 is 2. So then you need to check the x's. So they both have x's, but they only have one x in common. So that's their greatest common factor is 2x. So now you're going to divide both of these terms by 2x. So 2 divided by 2 is 1. X squared divided by x is just going to be x. Negative 8 divided by 2 is going to be negative 4. The x's would cancel each other out. So that's what we're going to be left with. So again, same idea. What does 5 and 20 have in common? Desmos will tell you that 5 is the greatest common factor, but since this 5 was a negative, that means the greatest common factor also has to be a negative. So they don't have any x's in common, so we're going to go ahead and go to our dividing part. So this is a negative 5 divided by a negative 5, so that's just going to be a positive x. This is a positive 20 divided by a negative. Positive divided by a negative is a negative. 20 divided by 5 is 4. So make sure what's in parentheses match. Ours do, so we can move on. So you're going to put your greatest common factors together. So in this case, it's 2x and negative 5. And then put the remainders together, x minus 4. This is our answer. Okay. Let's see if there's any on the back that I want to do. Let's just do number 17, and then I'll let you do the rest on your own. So go ahead, group the first two together, the second two together. So looking, what does 4 and negative 10 have in common? So in this case, the only thing that they have in common is a 2, and they also have an x in common. Divide both of these by 2x. So 4 divided by 2 is 2. X squared divided by x is just x. Negative 10 divided by 2 is going to be negative 5, with the x's canceling out. Okay, now check this. What does 10 and negative 25 have in common? That's going to be a 5, and it's going to be a positive 5 because that 10 is positive. So dividing, 10 divided by 5 is going to be the 2x. Negative 25 divided by 5 is going to be negative 5. Make sure that your remainders match. Ours do, so we can keep going. So we're going to put our greatest common factors together, 2x and 5. And then our remainders, what was in the parentheses, together, 2x minus 5. And that's our answer. Hope this was helpful. If you have any other questions, please let me know.